My name is Daniel Carter, and for most of my life, I believed family was the one thing you never gave up on. I believed that blood meant loyalty. I believed that parents would always choose what was right. I believed that a brother could fight with you, compete with you, even envy you sometimes, but when life truly tested him, he would still stand beside you. I was wrong about all of it. The day my brother stole my wife, I didn't lose just a marriage. I lost the family I had spent my entire life trying to make proud. And the worst part was not the affair itself. It was not the lies. It was not even walking into my own home and seeing my wife's hand in my brother's hand like they were the victims of some great forbidden love story. The worst part was hearing my mother say, with tears in her eyes but no shame in her voice, "Daniel, you need to be the bigger person." The bigger person. My wife had betrayed me. My brother had stabbed me in the back. And somehow, I was the one expected to apologize for being hurt. That was the moment something inside me went cold. Not angry. Not loud. Not dramatic. Cold. Because when betrayal comes from strangers, it hurts. But when betrayal comes from the people who were supposed to protect you, it changes the shape of your soul. I grew up in a small town outside Columbus, Ohio. Nothing fancy. A quiet neighborhood, 2-car garages, lawns people cared too much about, and families who looked perfect from the outside. My father, Robert Carter, owned a small hardware supply business. He was the kind of man everyone respected because he worked hard, spoke little, and believed emotions were something you handled in private. My mother, Elaine, was warm to everyone else. Church friends loved her. Neighbors adored her. Teachers praised her for volunteering. She had that soft, polished kindness that made people trust her instantly. But inside our house, kindness had conditions. My older brother, Michael, was the golden child. He was 2 years older than me, taller, louder, charming in the effortless way that made adults forgive him before he even apologized. When we were kids, if Michael broke a lamp, Mom said, "He's just energetic." If I got upset because he blamed me for it, Dad said, "Stop whining." If Michael failed a class, they said he was misunderstood. If I got a B instead of an A, they asked why I had not studied harder. That was the pattern. Michael made mistakes. I carried consequences. By the time I was 16, I had learned to be useful. I helped Dad at the store after school. I mowed the lawn. I fixed things around the house. I got good grades. I stayed out of trouble. Not because I was perfect. Because I thought if I became dependable enough, maybe my parents would finally see me. Maybe they would say, "Daniel, we're proud of you." But praise in our family was like sunlight through a locked window. I could see it. I just couldn't feel it. Michael, meanwhile, floated through life like rules were suggestions written for other people. He borrowed money and forgot to pay it back. He dated women and left them crying. He got jobs through friends of Dad's and quit when the work became boring. Still, my mother would smile and say, "Michael has a big heart, he just hasn't found his path yet." I found my path early. After college, I became a project manager for a commercial construction firm. It wasn't glamorous, but I was good at it. I liked schedules, budgets, plans, watching something rise from dirt and steel into a building people would use for years. That was how I met Rachel. She worked at a design firm that partnered with ours on an office renovation downtown. The first thing I noticed was not her beauty, though she was beautiful. It was the way she listened. In meetings, people talked over each other constantly. Rachel did not. She waited. She watched. Then she said one sentence that made everyone stop and reconsider. She had dark hair, calm eyes, and a laugh that made me feel like I had earned something rare. Our first conversation happened beside a coffee machine that barely worked. I was hitting the side of it, trying to convince it to give me my change back. Rachel walked up and said, "You know, violence against appliances is usually a sign of deeper frustration." I looked at her and said, "Then this coffee machine should apologize for everything it has done to me." She laughed. That laugh ruined me. We started dating 3 weeks later. Rachel was different from anyone I had ever been with. She made me feel chosen. Not tolerated. Not useful. Chosen. She noticed when I was tired. She asked about my day and actually listened. She remembered small things. How I hated mushrooms. How I tapped my thumb against my coffee cup when I was thinking. How I always checked the lock twice before going to bed. For the first time in my life, I felt like I did not have to perform to be loved. When I introduced her to my family, my mother hugged her too tightly and said, "Finally, Daniel brings home someone lovely." My father shook her hand and nodded approvingly. Michael arrived late, of course. He walked in wearing sunglasses indoors, kissed my mother on the cheek, and gave Rachel the kind of smile I had watched him use on women his entire life. "Well," he said, looking her up and down just long enough to make my stomach tighten, "Daniel didn't tell us you were out of his league." Rachel laughed politely. I forced a smile. That night, when we drove home, she said, "Your brother is confident." "That's one word for it," I said. She reached over and squeezed my hand. "But your parents seem sweet." I almost told her the truth. I almost said, "They're sweet when everything looks good." But I didn't. Because when you grow up in a family like mine, you learn to protect the illusion even after it stops protecting you. Rachel and I got married 2 years later. It was a beautiful October wedding. Golden leaves, white lights, a small vineyard venue outside the city. My mother cried during the ceremony. My father gave a short toast about responsibility and commitment. Michael was my best man. I remember him standing beside me in a dark suit, smiling for photos, clapping me on the back, telling me I was a lucky man. I had no idea that one day, he would decide my luck belonged to him. The first few years of marriage were good. Not perfect, because no marriage is perfect, but good. We bought a small house in a quiet suburb. Rachel decorated it with warm colors and framed prints. I built shelves in the garage and planted 2 maple trees in the backyard. We talked about having kids. Rachel wanted 2. I wanted 3. Mostly because I had grown up with one brother and still somehow felt lonely. But life got busy. Rachel's design firm expanded. My company began taking larger projects. We told ourselves we had time. Then Michael's life began falling apart, again. He lost another job. Then an apartment. Then a girlfriend, who apparently kicked him out after discovering he had been using her credit card. My mother called me one evening, while Rachel and I were making dinner. "Daniel," she said, her voice already heavy with expectation, "your brother needs help." I closed my eyes. Rachel looked at me from across the kitchen. "What happened?" "He's going through a hard time," Mom said. That was always the phrase, a hard time. Michael never created disasters. He went through hard times. "He needs somewhere to stay for a few weeks," she continued. I looked at Rachel. She mouthed, "What?" I covered the phone and whispered, "Michael needs a place." Rachel's expression tightened, but she did not immediately say no. "Mom," I said, "why can't he stay with you and Dad?" There was a pause. "You know your father's blood pressure has been bad. And Michael and your father clash when they're under the same roof. Translation: your brother is unpleasant, so you deal with him. I need to talk to Rachel." Mom sighed. "Daniel, he's your brother." There it was. The sentence that had chained me my entire life. "He's your brother." As if biology were a contract I had signed before I could read. Rachel agreed to let him stay for 3 weeks. 3 weeks became 2 months. 2 months became 6. At first, Michael behaved well enough. He cooked sometimes, he joked with Rachel. He helped carry groceries. He told stories that made guests laugh. But slowly, he became comfortable. Too comfortable. He left dishes in the sink. He drank my beer. He used our laundry detergent, our streaming accounts, our guest room like a hotel suite. I asked him once when he planned to find a place. He stretched on my couch and said, "Relax, little brother. I'm getting back on my feet." "You've been getting back on your feet for half a year." He smirked. Some of us don't define success by spreadsheets and early bedtimes. Rachel, sitting beside me, gave a small laugh. It was not a cruel laugh. But it landed wrong. I looked at her. She looked away. That was the first time I felt it. A tiny crack in the wall of my marriage. Nothing obvious. Nothing I could point to. Just a shift. Michael started being around Rachel more when I wasn't home. At least, that was how it felt. If I came home early, they were in the kitchen talking. If I walked into the living room, they suddenly stopped laughing. If Rachel mentioned something funny Michael had said, her face lit up in a way I had not seen for me in months. I told myself I was being insecure. After all, jealousy had always been Michael's language, not mine. I trusted my wife. And despite everything, a part of me still wanted to trust my brother. One Friday evening, I came home from work exhausted. We had been dealing with a delayed shipment, angry subcontractors, and a client who changed his mind every 6 hours. I opened the front door and heard music. Rachel was in the kitchen, cooking pasta. Michael stood beside her, chopping vegetables. They were dancing. Not full dancing. Just swaying playfully, laughing, shoulders brushing. Rachel looked startled when she saw me. Michael did not. He grinned. "Hey, Danny, long day?" I hated when he called me Danny. Rachel turned down the music. "You're home early." "I live here," I said. The room went quiet. Michael raised his eyebrows. "Whoa. Someone's in a mood." Rachel wiped her hands on a towel. "Daniel, don't start. Don't start." Those 2 words hit me harder than they should have. I had not accused anyone. I had not yelled. I had simply walked into my own house. And already, I was the problem. That night, after Michael went upstairs, I asked Rachel if something was going on. She looked offended. "With your brother?" "I'm asking because things feel different." She crossed her arms. "Maybe things feel different because you come home angry every day." "I'm not angry every day. You're distant." "I'm working 10-hour days while my unemployed brother lives in our guest room." Her face hardened. "That's unfair." "To who?" "To Michael. He's trying." I stared at her. The way she said his name was soft, defensive. I felt something sink in my chest. "Rachel," I said carefully, "why are you defending him like that?" "Because you judge him constantly. He lives in our house for free. He's family." I almost laughed. Not because it was funny. Because I had heard that sentence all my life. But it sounded different in my wife's voice. Like Michael had planted it there. A month later, I found the first message. I was not snooping. Rachel had left her phone on the kitchen counter while she showered. It buzzed. I glanced down automatically. Michael's name appeared. Miss you already. That was all. 3 words. 3 words can destroy an entire universe when they arrive from the wrong person. I stood there staring at the screen until it went dark. My hands felt numb. Rachel came downstairs in a robe, drying her hair with a towel. She saw my face. Then she saw the phone. What did you see? I asked quietly. Why is my brother telling you he misses you? Her mouth opened. Closed. Daniel. That was when I knew. Not suspected. Knew. Because innocent people react with confusion. Guilty people react with your name. How long? I asked. She started crying. I remember feeling strangely calm. How long, Rachel? It wasn't supposed to happen. I nodded slowly. That sentence is always the confession before the confession. How long? 3 months. The floor seemed to tilt. 3 months. 90 days. 90 mornings of me kissing her goodbye. 90 evenings of my brother eating my food, sitting on my couch, smiling at me with my wife's secrets in his pocket. Did you sleep with him in this house? She cried harder. I stepped back as if her tears were something dirty. Answer me. Yes. 1 word. That was all it took. I walked upstairs. Michael's door was closed. I opened it without knocking. He was sitting on the bed, scrolling through his phone. When he saw my face, he stood. Daniel. I hit him. I am not proud of that. But I will not pretend I was some saint. In that moment, I hit my brother once, hard enough that he stumbled into the dresser. Then I grabbed his duffel bag from the closet and threw it at him. Get out. He touched his lip. There was blood. Listen to me. Get out of my house. Rachel appeared behind me, sobbing. Daniel, please. I turned to her. You don't get to say please anymore. Michael's expression changed then. The guilt faded, replaced by anger. You think you own her because you married her? I almost hit him again. Instead, I laughed. A cold, ugly laugh I did not recognize. No, I said. But I did think my brother wouldn't crawl into my bed while living under my roof. His face twitched. Rachel whispered. It wasn't like that. I looked at her. What was it like? She said nothing. Because betrayal always wants complexity, when the truth is simple. Michael packed while I stood in the doorway. Rachel begged me to calm down. Michael muttered that I was unstable. I said nothing else. When he finally walked out, he looked back at me and said, You were never there for her. That was the second time he stole something from me that night. First my wife. Then my right to be the victim. Rachel left the next morning. She went to a hotel first, then to my parents' house. I know because my mother called me before noon. Her voice was shaking, but not with concern for me. Daniel, what did you do? I was sitting at the kitchen table, staring at 2 coffee mugs in the sink, one mine, one hers. What did I do? Rachel is here crying. Michael said you attacked him. I closed my eyes. Did he mention why? Mom hesitated. He said emotions got out of hand. I laughed once. Mom, he had an affair with my wife. Silence. Then she said, I know. 2 words. I know. Not, I'm sorry. Not, are you okay? I know. How long have you known? I asked. Rachel told me this morning. And you're calling to ask what I did? Daniel. Listen to me. I'm not saying what they did was right. But violence is never acceptable. The room blurred. I gripped the edge of the table. My brother slept with my wife in my house while I was working to pay the bills. And your first concern is that I punched him? You could have seriously hurt him. I should have thrown him out months ago. Don't speak like that. He's your brother. There it was again. The chain. Only this time, it snapped. No. I said. He was my brother. My mother gasped as if I had slapped her. Daniel Carter, you don't mean that. I do. You are angry. Yes. And you're hurt. Yes. But you cannot destroy this family over one mistake. One mistake. I stood up so fast the chair scraped the floor. One mistake? Mom, he slept with my wife for 3 months. People make mistakes when they're lonely. I could not breathe for a second. Lonely. Michael was lonely. Rachel was confused. My parents were heartbroken. And me? Apparently. I was inconvenient. Is Dad there? I asked. Yes, put him on. There was muffled movement. Then my father's voice came on, low and tired. Son. Dad, did you hear what happened? I heard enough. And? He sighed. It's a mess. A mess is spilling paint in the garage. This is betrayal. I'm not defending what Michael did. But? Another pause. But marriage is complicated. Your mother and I have had hard seasons too. I stared at the wall. Are you comparing your marriage problems to my wife sleeping with my brother? I'm saying decisions made in pain can't be undone. Good. I said. Because my decision is done. What decision? I'm filing for divorce. And Michael is dead to me. My father's voice sharpened. Don't say that. Why not? Because family doesn't cut family off. I looked around the kitchen. Rachel had painted yellow, because she said morning light looked happier that way. Family doesn't cut family off. No. They just betray you until you cut yourself loose. I'm done, I said. My father went quiet. Then he said the sentence that ended us. You've always been too rigid, Daniel. This is why Rachel felt alone. I hung up. For several minutes, I just stood there, holding the phone. I expected rage. Instead, I felt empty. Like someone had walked through my life and quietly turned off all the lights. The divorce took 11 months. Rachel did not fight me much on the house. She said it had too many memories. I kept it for a while, though I hated every corner. The guest room smelled like Michael's cologne no matter how many times I cleaned it. The kitchen felt haunted by laughter. The bedroom became a place I avoided until exhaustion forced me into it. My parents tried to mediate. That was their word. Mediate. As if this were a property dispute. They invited me to Sunday dinner 2 weeks after everything happened. I did not go. Mom texted, "We need to talk as a family." I replied, "I no longer have one." She called me dramatic. Dad called me stubborn. Michael sent one message. "You can hate me if you want. But Rachel and I are in love. You never appreciated her." I deleted it. Then I blocked him. Rachel sent longer messages. Some were apologies. Some were explanations. Some were accusations wrapped in therapy language. She said I worked too much. She said she felt invisible. She said Michael made her feel alive. She said they had not meant to hurt me. I wondered how people could aim a knife directly at your chest and still claim they never meant to make you bleed. I blocked her too. Then came the family pressure. Aunts called. Cousins texted. My mother apparently told everyone I had lost control and refused to forgive. No one asked what it felt like to be betrayed. They asked when I was going to stop punishing everyone. My grandmother, my mother's mother, was the only one who called and said, "Danny, I'm sorry." I almost cried when I heard her voice. She was 86 then, sharp as a sewing needle, and too old to care about pretending. "What they did was rotten," she said. "And your parents are cowards." I sat on my back porch, staring at the maple trees. "Grandma." "No. Let me say it. Your mother spent her life making excuses for Michael because admitting he's selfish would mean admitting she raised him that way." Those words stayed with me. Because sometimes the truth does not heal you. It just gives shape to the wound. Michael and Rachel moved in together 6 months after the divorce finalized. My parents helped them. I found that out from a cousin who thought I already knew. Apparently, Dad co-signed their lease. Mom helped Rachel furnish the apartment. They told relatives it was complicated but beautiful, that love had come from pain. Love had come from pain. My pain, specifically. I sold the house 2 months later, not because they drove me out. Because I refused to live in a museum of betrayal. I moved to Denver. My company had a regional office there, and my boss had offered me a transfer years before. At the time, Rachel did not want to leave Ohio. She said her family, her work, our life were there. Funny how everything that once kept me in place disappeared when she did. Denver was different. Bigger sky, sharper air, mountains in the distance like something solid enough to trust. At first, I did nothing but work. I rented a 1-bedroom apartment with no furniture except a mattress, a desk, and 2 folding chairs. I ate takeout. I ran in the mornings because if I stopped moving, I started thinking. I did not date. I did not go home for Christmas. My mother sent a card with a photo of the family. She and Dad, Michael and Rachel, everyone smiling in front of a Christmas tree. On the back she wrote, "There is still a place for you here when you're ready." I stared at that card for a long time. Then I put it through a paper shredder. The first year was survival. The second year was rebuilding. I bought a townhouse. I started hiking. I made friends slowly, mostly through work and a running group I joined, because my doctor said stress was eating my blood pressure alive. There was a woman in that group named Claire. She was a nurse practitioner, divorced, funny in a dry way, and completely unimpressed by anyone's self-pity, including mine. The first time she asked why I moved to Denver, I gave a vague answer. "Family situation," I said. She nodded. Translation: "People did something awful and you're still deciding how much of the truth to tell." I stared at her. She smiled. "I work in healthcare. Everyone thinks they're subtle." Claire became my friend before anything else. That mattered. She never pushed me to tell the story. She did not tell me forgiveness was necessary for healing. She did not say blood was thicker than water. When I finally told her everything, we were sitting on a trail overlook after a morning hike. I expected pity. She looked angry. Not at me. For me. Then she said, "Daniel, they trained you to accept crumbs and called it loyalty." I had to look away. Because sometimes a stranger can name your pain better than the people who caused it. Claire and I started dating slowly. Very slowly. I told her from the beginning that I had trust issues. She said, "Good, then we'll build trust instead of pretending it magically exists." That was Claire. Practical, patient, strong. She had a daughter, Sophie, who was 8 when I met her. Bright, cautious, obsessed with drawing horses. I never tried to replace her father. I never forced a bond. I just showed up consistently. I came to school art shows. I fixed a wobbly bookshelf. I helped with math homework. One day, after I had been dating Claire for almost a year, Sophie handed me a drawing of 3 people standing under a huge mountain. Claire. Sophie. Me. I kept it. It is still framed in my office. By year 4 in Denver, my life was unrecognizable from the ruins I had left. I had been promoted to regional director. Claire and I were engaged. Sophie asked if she could call me Dan, because Daniel sounded too serious. I laughed and said yes. My parents found out through social media. I know because my mother emailed me. Subject: Congratulations, Daniel. I saw that you are engaged. Your father and I are happy for you, though it hurts that we had to find out online. We still love you. We wish you would stop shutting us out. Life is short. And holding grudges only creates more pain. Mom, I read it twice. Then I replied, Elaine, you did not lose access to my life because I held a grudge. You lost access because when Michael betrayed me, you defended him. When Rachel betrayed me, you comforted her. When I was destroyed, you blamed me. I am not shutting you out to punish you. I am protecting my peace. Do not contact me again unless you are ready to tell the truth without excuses. Daniel, she did not reply. But 3 weeks later, Dad called from an unknown number. I answered because I thought it was work. Daniel. I froze. Dad. He cleared his throat. Your mother showed me your email. Okay. You were harsh. I almost smiled. Not because it was funny. Because even after 4 years, they still believed my tone was the real crime. Was I wrong? He sighed. We did what we thought would keep the family together. No, you did what kept Michael from facing consequences. That's not fair. Neither was my brother sleeping with my wife. He went silent. I continued. Did you call to apologize? I called because your mother is heartbroken. About what she did or about not being invited to my wedding? His silence answered. I hope you have a good life, Dad. Daniel. I hung up. That time, my hands did not shake. Healing does not always feel like forgiveness. Sometimes it feels like hanging up without needing to explain yourself twice. Claire and I married in a small ceremony near Boulder. No big family drama. No speeches about blood. No performance. Just people who loved us without conditions. Sophie walked Claire down the aisle because Claire said her daughter had been the one constant in her life. When I said my vows, I did not promise Claire a perfect life. I promised honesty. I promised presence. I promised that if pain ever entered our home, I would face it with her instead of looking for comfort in someone else's arms. Claire cried. I cried too. And for the first time in years, my tears did not feel like weakness. They felt like release. 7 years passed. 7 years of peace. Not perfect peace. Life is still life. Claire and I had a son together, Ethan. Sophie became a teenager, which meant our house was filled with dramatic sighs, half-finished snacks, and music I did not understand. I built a good life. A real one. Then Michael called. Not directly. He couldn't. He was still blocked. He called my office. My assistant transferred it because he claimed it was a family emergency. I picked up, expecting a client. Daniel? I knew his voice immediately. Older. Rougher. Still him. My body reacted before my mind did. My chest tightened. My fingers went cold. What do you want? He exhaled. I know I'm the last person you want to hear from. You're right. Please don't hang up. I looked through the glass wall of my office. People were walking past with coffee cups, folders, normal lives. What do you want, Michael? It's Dad. That stopped me. What about him? He had a stroke. For a moment, I said nothing. He's alive, Michael added quickly. But it's bad. He can talk a little, but his right side. He trailed off. I sat down slowly. When? 3 days ago. 3 days. They waited 3 days. Why are you calling me? Mom wants you to come home. I stared at my desk. There it was. Not. I'm sorry. Not. I know I have no right. Mom wants. Even crisis could not teach them how to speak to me as a person. I'm sorry Dad is sick, I said, but I'm not coming. Michael's voice cracked. Daniel, he's your father. And where was my father when you destroyed my marriage? He swallowed audibly. I know I hurt you. No. You betrayed me. Hurt is what happens by accident. I was selfish. Yes. I was wrong. I waited. He continued. Rachel and I. We didn't last. I had not known that. I had not cared enough to check. When did that happen? Years ago. I almost laughed. Not from joy. From the sheer emptiness of it. So you blew up my marriage. helped destroy my family, and it didn't even last? He said nothing. Was it worth it? His voice was barely above a whisper. No. I closed my eyes. For years, I had imagined hearing that. Some grand confession. Some moment where Michael admitted he had ruined everything for nothing. But when it came, it did not satisfy me. Because the years were still gone. The scars were still mine. No, I said quietly. It wasn't. Please come home, he said. Mom is falling apart. Then comfort her. You were always the one she chose. I hung up. That night, I told Claire. She listened quietly at the kitchen table while Ethan slept upstairs, and Sophie pretended not to listen from the living room. When I finished, Claire took my hand. What do you want to do? I don't know. That was the truth. My father had failed me. But he was still my father. My mother had betrayed me. But part of me still remembered being 5 years old with a scraped knee, running to her because I believed she could fix anything. Estrangement is not a clean cut. It is an amputation that aches when the weather changes. I don't want to go back, I said. Then don't. What if he dies? Claire squeezed my hand. Then you'll grieve what was, and what never was. But you don't owe people access to you just because they waited until tragedy to ask. The next morning, my mother called. A different unknown number. I almost did not answer. But I did. Daniel, she sobbed. I leaned against the counter. Mom. Hearing myself call her that hurt more than I expected. Your father needs you. I'm sorry he's sick. Please come. Please. He keeps asking for you. I closed my eyes. What exactly is he asking? He says your name. That was not the same thing. Does he want to apologize? She cried harder. Why does everything have to be about the past? I opened my eyes. Because you buried me there, and got upset when I didn't stay quiet. She gasped softly. I am your mother. You were supposed to be. The silence that followed was heavy. Then she said, I did the best I could. No, I said. You did what was easiest. That's cruel. So was inviting my ex-wife and my brother to Christmas and sending me the photo. She was quiet. I had never mentioned that card before. I wanted you to see that there was still a place for you. No. You wanted me to see I had been replaced. That is not true. Then why did you help them move in together? Her breath caught. Who told you that? Does it matter? Daniel. Rachel had nowhere to go. She had parents, friends, a job, a hotel room. She had plenty of places to go. You chose to help her build a home with the man who betrayed your son. My mother began crying again, but this time I did not soften. Her tears had controlled me for too long. I lost both my sons that year, she whispered. No, I said. You chose one and lost the other. She said nothing. If Dad wants to speak to me and apologize, he can call. If you want to apologize without excuses, you can write it down. But I will not come home to play the role of forgiving son so everyone feels better. You've become so cold. I looked toward the living room where Sophie was now openly watching me, her face full of concern. No, I said. I became safe. Then I hung up. 2 weeks passed. Then a letter arrived. Not an email. A real letter. Written in shaky handwriting. From my father. Daniel, I do not know if this letter will reach you in the right spirit. Writing is difficult now, so your mother is helping with some of the words, but these are mine. I failed you. I have had a lot of time in this bed to think, maybe too much. Your mother tells me not to upset myself, but the truth is I have been upset for years and called it pride. When Michael and Rachel hurt you, I told myself I was keeping the family together. That was a lie. I was afraid of facing what kind of man Michael had become, and what kind of father I had been. You were always the son I depended on. Because of that, I forgot you were also the son who needed defending. I should have stood beside you. I should have told your brother he was wrong. I should have told Rachel she had broken something sacred. I should never have blamed you for being angry. I am sorry. I do not know if I deserve to see you. Maybe I do not. But before I die, I wanted you to know that I understand more now than I did then. Dad, I read it in my car outside the mailbox. Then I read it again. Then I cried so hard I could not go inside for 20 minutes, because that was the apology I had wanted for 7 years. And it came too late to fix anything. But not too late to matter. Claire found me in the driveway. I handed her the letter. She read it, then looked at me. What do you need? I don't know. She nodded. Then don't decide tonight. That was love. Not pressure. Not advice dressed as command. Just space. I waited 3 days. Then I called my father. My mother answered. When she heard my voice, she said, Daniel, I want to talk to Dad. There was movement, whispering. Then my father's voice came on, slurred but recognizable. Son. I sat in my office with the door closed. I got your letter. He breathed unevenly. I meant it. I know. I'm sorry. My throat tightened. I believe you. He began to cry. I had heard my father cry only once before, when his own father died. I don't expect you to come, he said slowly. Each word seemed to cost him effort. I'm not sure I can. I know. That was new. No demand. No guilt. Just acceptance. I needed you. I said. I know. You made me feel like I was the problem. I was wrong. I lost everyone. He cried harder. I know. For a while neither of us spoke. Then he said, Are you happy? I looked at the photo on my desk. Claire, Sophie, Ethan, and me at Rocky Mountain National Park, all of us windblown and laughing. Yes, I said. I am. Good. That one word broke something open in me. Not forgiveness exactly. Something smaller. A door unlocking in a room I no longer lived in. We talked for 11 minutes. That was all he could manage. At the end, he said, I love you, Daniel. I closed my eyes. I love you too, Dad. And I did. Love is complicated that way. You can love someone, and still know they should not have a place in your daily life. My father died 5 months later. I did not fly home for the funeral. That shocked people. My mother left voicemails. Aunts sent messages calling me cruel. Michael emailed my work account saying, You'll regret this forever. But I had already said goodbye in the only honest conversation my father and I had ever had. A funeral would not have been for him. It would have been theater for everyone else. I sent flowers. White lilies. The card said, I heard you. Rest peacefully. Daniel. My mother did not contact me for nearly a year after that. Then, one afternoon, I received another letter. This one was from her. Her handwriting was perfect, controlled, familiar. Daniel, I have started this letter many times. I wanted to explain myself, but every explanation sounds like an excuse. Maybe that is because most of them are. I was wrong. I defended Michael because I did not want to admit he had done something unforgivable. I defended Rachel because I was embarrassed that our family looked broken. I blamed you because your pain demanded action from me, and I was too weak to take it. You once asked me if I was sorry for what I did or sorry I was not invited back into your life. At the time, I thought that was cruel. Now I know it was accurate. I am sorry for what I did. I am sorry I made your betrayal heavier. I am sorry I chose appearances over my son. I do not expect you to forgive me. I only wanted to tell the truth once without asking anything from you. Mom, I sat with that letter for a long time. Then I put it in the same folder as my father's. Not because everything was fixed. Because the truth deserved to be kept somewhere other than inside my body. Michael never truly apologized. Not in a way that mattered. He sent one email a few months after Dad died. It was long, messy, full of regret but also full of himself. He said Rachel had left him for someone else. He said he understood now what betrayal felt like. He said losing me was the biggest mistake of his life. He said he hoped someday we could be brothers again. I did not respond. Some people confuse consequences with cruelty because they have spent their whole lives being rescued from both. I heard through relatives that Michael struggled for years. Jobs came and went. Relationships failed. He moved back in with my mother for a while. Rachel remarried a man from another state. I felt nothing when I heard. Not happiness. Not anger. Nothing. That was how I knew I was free. People think the opposite of love is hate. It is not. Hate still keeps a chair for someone at your table. Freedom is when you stop setting the table at all. Years later, my mother asked to meet me. Not at my home. I was not ready for that. We met in Chicago, halfway between our lives. In a quiet hotel restaurant on a rainy afternoon. She looked older. Smaller. For a moment, when she walked in, I saw the woman who used to hold my hand, crossing busy streets. Then I saw the woman who told me to be the bigger person while I was bleeding. Both were true. She cried when she saw me. I stood, but I did not hug her. Not at first. We sat. She ordered tea and barely touched it. You look good, she said. I am good. Her eyes filled. I'm glad. There was a long silence. Then she said, I won't ask you to come back. Good. I won't ask you to forgive Michael. I won't. She nodded, tears falling. I know. That was the first time my mother accepted a boundary without trying to climb over it. We talked for 2 hours. About Dad. About Denver. About Claire and the kids. She asked if she could see photos. I showed her a few. She cried when she saw Ethan. He has your eyes, she said. Yes. And Sophie? She's applying to colleges. You raised her? I helped raise her. My mother looked down. You became a good father. I swallowed. I had examples of what not to do. She flinched, but she nodded. I deserve that. At the end of the meal, she asked, Can I hug you? I looked at her for a long time. Then I said yes. Her arms felt familiar and foreign at the same time. I did not feel like a child. Coming home. I felt like a man saying goodbye to the version of his mother he had needed and never had. After that, we exchanged occasional letters. Not calls, not holidays, not family reunions. Letters. Careful, honest, limited. That was all I could offer. And for once, she accepted what I could give, instead of demanding what she wanted. Michael tried once to show up at my office. Security called me. There's a man here claiming to be your brother. I looked through the camera feed. There he was. Older, heavier, nervous. For a moment, memories rushed back. Backyard football. Stolen Halloween candy. Him teaching me to ride a bike before he learned to resent me. Then I remembered Rachel's phone lighting up on my kitchen counter. Miss you already. I told security. I don't have a brother. They escorted him out. I know some people will hear that and think I was cruel. Maybe they have never had to bury someone who was still alive. Maybe they think forgiveness means restored access. It does not. Forgiveness, if it comes, is between you and your own heart. Access is a privilege. Trust is rebuilt by the person who broke it, not demanded from the person who survived it. And some bridges do not burn because you are angry. They burn because they were built out of lies, and truth is flammable. I am 46 now. Claire and I have been married 9 years. Sophie is in graduate school. Ethan is 10 and believes I know everything because I can fix a bike chain and make pancakes shaped like dinosaurs. Our home is loud, imperfect, warm. On Sundays, we cook together. Sometimes I stand in the kitchen and watch Claire laughing with the kids, and I think about the old yellow kitchen in Ohio. I think about who I was there. A man begging to be chosen by people who had already made their choice. Then I look at my life now, and I realize something. Michael did steal my wife. My parents did defend him, but they did not steal my future. They did not steal my ability to love. They did not steal the family I would one day build from truth instead of blood. Cutting them off was not the end of my life. It was the beginning of it. For years, I thought family meant the people who shared your name. Now I know better. Family is the people who protect your peace. The people who tell the truth when lies would be easier. The people who do not ask you to bleed quietly so everyone else can stay comfortable. My brother stole my wife. My parents defended him. So I cut them off forever. And in losing the family I was born into, I finally found the family I deserved. The last time my mother wrote to me, she included a sentence I still think about. She wrote, "I wish I had chosen you when it mattered." I folded the letter and placed it in the folder with the others. Then I went outside. Claire was in the yard with Ethan, trying to help him fly a kite. Sophie was home for the weekend, sitting on the porch with a book she was not reading because she was laughing at them. The sky was clear. The mountains stood in the distance. And for the first time, I did not feel the need to answer my mother's regret, because some lessons arrive too late to change the past. But they can still confirm the choice you made to survive it. I walked into the yard. Ethan shouted, "Dad, help. The kite hates me." Claire laughed. Sophie rolled her eyes. I took the string from my son's hands and showed him how to let the wind do some of the work. The kite rose slowly, shaking at first, then climbing higher. Ethan cheered like we had launched a rocket. And I stood there, looking up, surrounded by the life I had built, after everything collapsed. I used to think being the bigger person meant swallowing pain. Now I know it means refusing to become small enough to fit inside other people's excuses. It means walking away when staying would destroy you. It means choosing peace even when everyone calls it pride. It means understanding that forever is not always a punishment. Sometimes forever is protection. And sometimes the strongest thing a man can do is close the door, lock it, and never look back.